Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're having a good day. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 246, I was very lucky, privileged to have Kathryn Ficarra on the podcast. Yes, I've got to say, she is the VP Marketing and PR at Solo Secure. We were going to talk about initially the new product they were going to release, but the podcast took a unusual turn. It did. We talked about a lot about mental health and some of the challenges which rose up through the pandemic. We also talked about how she got sort of started in her working life. All in all, I got to say it was a fascinating conversation. Really enjoyed my time talking to her. And yeah, I look forward to most probably speaking to her in the near future. But please sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and yeah, let's go. Ha ha. Peace. Ha ha ha. And away. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 246, I'm very lucky, privileged to have Kathryn Ficarra on the podcast today. Yes, she's the VP at marketing at, yes, VP of marketing at Solar Secure. How are you today, my lady?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
You know what? I'm glad you're here on this like sunny day. Like you are in Seattle. Are you experiencing sunshine right now, or is it
You,
Seattle?
you know what? That's a really good question because in the last day and a half or so, it's decided to change hourly. So at this current moment, I see some blue skies, but it will change. It'll start raining in a little bit and we'll be back to Seattle weather, but that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things what makes me smile. There's a place which has more changeable weather than
Yeah.
us in the UK.
Yeah, you guys have some unpredictable weather over there.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
a good story.
absolutely. We do. I'm not getting on a high horse. I'm just like going, I'm glad I've got a kindred spirit who feels my pain.
Why you got to take a vacation every once in a while.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have to ask this. You have gone from the realm of television to
Mhm.
marketing. Like, how does that journey work exactly?
I know I really have a crazy past when it comes from a work perspective. And I think that's because I was involved very heavily in sales early on and then moved into more of a marketing track. But
Hmm.
the reality is from a work perspective, I started out, I actually went to school for broadcasting. I really wanted to be an anchor for CNN. That was like my dream. And this is going back a bit, but I remember that I lost my tape. I had a whole tape together that I worked on for a long time and was going to submit it to all these news stations so I could get my reporter job. And I lost it in college. And when I ended up, looking for my jobs and so forth, I really wanted to do TV. And the only position open at the time was a sales assistant job. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to get my foot in the door and I'm just going to see if I can get this job and try that. So I did that and I just really liked it. I liked understanding the back end of how, what was really making these stations run from a revenue perspective and the business side of it. But really, when you're in television sales, you do a lot of marketing because you have to understand a variety of different industries and what their pain points are. And then how do you make a piece of creative really speak to a consumer and like what do those cohorts look like and how do you create that creative and how do you help the advertisers with that. So I got really into that side of it and the creative side of it, and I did that actually for, I don't know, 15 years, and then I ran the sales team for a long time, or a couple of years, and then got poached to come over to the game side. One of our clients was a gaming company, and so I was a little bit like, wow, I'm a kind of a lifer in this TV world and doing the sales thing. But this was a marketing role and I was super interested in it. And I knew the people over there. So I made that change and I made that move and did that for a couple of years. And that was really a lot of partner marketing, overseeing digital and so forth. And gaming is such a animal of its own. I mean, that is a way to be like thrown into like the fire. It's so competitive. It
Mm.
is because, you're dealing with, and then at that point too, we were heavily PC Mac focused, but porting over to mobile. And so iOS App Store was blowing up. We were really trying to figure out what that meant for us. How do we, how do we change perspectives and pivot? And so that was like that was a big learning experience for me, but I really enjoyed that. And I realized how much I really liked marketing. And so I've kind of throughout then have, joined different startups and stuff and stayed kind of on the marketing side. But really, and for where we are now, I am, I'm running the marketing, but I'm also, because I have so much experience with sales and wholesale and so forth, I have my hand in that too. So I'm kind of running sales and marketing and PR. And so I think all of the, the different experiences I've had have like really brought me to this like one comprehensive approach that I'm able to bring to what we're doing now. And I'm really excited with what we're doing because it's so innovative and it's so unique. And I think really what is so important to do when you're when you're working is like finding something that you really love, right? So you don't feel like you work a day in your life, right? So, and I think now, I mean, I'm really lucky. I'm really fortunate that I found an amazing group of people that, everybody's working to just the greater good. Like we're really into like, safety and how do we keep people safe and how do we use technology so that every person, no matter what your socioeconomic path is, no matter, your skin color, it doesn't matter. You have a basic human right to feel safe in this world. And so what we're doing now is creating those tools that allow you to do so. So yeah, I feel super lucky and I'm really happy.
And I hear you, and like you're jumping quite quickly through. But like this is the thing, I have to take you back because like this is the thing, you have seen some real big changes over the course of time. Not that your appearance gives away anything of the sort, because like yeah.
That's good. Thank you for saying that.
No, it's true. It's true. Because like this is the thing, like you go television, right? Now, television broadcasting back in the day. Now, when you were saying I had a tape which I've lost. Now that like for some people out there like going, a tape?
What's a tape?
That's lost. It's like going, you mean
what's a beta tape?
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, to go into the broadcasting industry and sort of see like how the sort of mechanics of that works, like, and see how that sort of changed over the course of time, because you were there when the internet came along. The internet, that's a silly fad. No one's gonna pay attention to that. To when it sort of was like, oh, the internet. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's so funny. I actually remember being in my cubicle and we did not have internet at our computers. Like there was no internet. We had one spot where you could like dial on. I think it was like through AOL, and you would like, that's how you could get online. But and I don't know how we did our jobs without any of that. We did have email, but it's, and I think television has changed quite a bit, and I've been out of it for so long. But what I do recall being so interesting is, you watch television, you watch these commercials, you watch your shows, but really the behind the scenes on all of that and what makes a station run, what makes a network run, the importance of local versus national revenue and what the cut of the station gets and how they really run the stations. And then the separation of news and sales, like that was a big eye opener for me too, right? Like, I'm working with, for a TV sales team, when you've got, maybe 15 account executives and they're working with all of a mix between these local advertisers that are trying to advertise their message to the local market. And then you've got a national team that works with the advertisers that are advertising nationally. So you have two buckets, right? And those two teams fight for the same inventory, right? So you've got a pod of local inventory that you have access to, and you're trying to get the highest rate for it, but yet you're trying to do right by your customer, because likely from a consumer or from the customer's perspective, they're like, okay, I'm going to, what's my ROI on the spend? So, they're going to calculate, this is how much my CAC is if I'm going to go after this cohort, and like, what, how do I then create a budget going forward? So if you're at like if you've got customers that are like, I can't pay more than this for this spot, and this comes out to this CPM, and you're not fighting internally, but you're negotiating internally with other advertisers that are being represented by other account executives who have clients that want to spend a little bit more than you do. And then you get preempted out of that spot. It's a lot of moving parts, right? Mm. So there's definitely a try, from an internal perspective, like you want to do right by the client, you want to do right by your station, getting the revenue, and you want to, be able to, to make the station money. So, and then if you look at, so that's the sales team. And then you have the news team, right? And this news team is responsible for giving the consumer the best, news in the quickest way. And sometimes that impacts you as a client. So like I might have a car dealer that got in trouble for doing something negative with insurance or something like that. So then you've got news that might come in and do a story on my client, right? So they do a story on my client gets pissed, they pull their revenue, they take it to another station. I mean, stuff like that happens all the time, right? So that's always interesting, like when you really understand like the back end of how those things work, and from a business perspective. But what's really neat about that, and why I thought that was a great place to start my career, was because I really learned about I worked with plumbers, I worked with car dealerships, I worked with political candidates, I worked with insurance brokers. I mean, I don't know, tons and tons and tons of different industries. And so you really do get to understand, the variety of pain points for different industries and like how they work and how people think. And so I think I took a lot of how I saw people run their businesses, because you're dealing a lot with these business owners. And so I really had the opportunity to take a lot of the insights that I would glean just from, being around them and meeting them and making that part of how I approach my business. And so I'm actually, really fortunate I got to do something like that. And back in the day too, I mean, TV was like the main vehicle, right? Like, right. There was no fragmentation of media. There was no Netflix and Hulu and, that stuff didn't really exist. And right now, I think today it's just a very different landscape. So that opportunity to have that kind of touch point with those customers you're spending a lot of time with, because they're spending a lot of money, because you actually have the vehicle that's going to reach the most amount of people. That's just not the case anymore. So it's so different now. But yeah, I remember going and driving and picking up physical tapes that we would bring back to master control, and that's what the spots would be on. And now everything's digital and so forth. So very, very different landscape. But it was a good way to like get in there, very grassroots approach to working, I feel like. And yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I must admit, like I can imagine what TV now and TV back then, because like this is the thing, TV now, depending where you are, if you're looking at your Netflix, your Disney Pluses, like your Hulu and everything like this, it's not some like the advertising doesn't exist on some of the platforms or whatsoever, and it's all down to a subscription basis. Like, what would you say you would say a great sort of lesson you picked up from then back in your TV days? Like, what was one of the things which you went, you know what, I get this. I wouldn't have got this if you were like the anchor in front of the TV camera, like, hello, this is definitely no. Yeah.
Right. I think that that's a good question. What was like an aha moment for me? I think from the perspective of like doing what you love, I think that was a big, because it was hard for me to come in on the sales side when I really wanted to be a reporter.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing these, and some of my friends were reporters, and how hard of a life that they had, right? Like getting up at 4 a.m., driving an hour, it's pouring rain, and I'm like, oh, that is kind of difficult. And some of them liked it and some of them didn't. And so, and you can see it in a person's soul, like their energy that radiates, like if they're not doing something they love, right? So I really was like trying to make sure I doubled down on what is it I like about what I'm doing and what do I want to take with me. And one thing I learned about TV, and what I think is interesting in the advertising world right now, is that the psychology behind what makes people buy things or what makes people engage with something, right? It's like sight, sound, motion, and emotion. It's the same thing when you're having a conversation with a person. So like, what's going to make me engage with you right now? I can see you, I can hear you, I can't touch you because we're on a screen, but in your relationships in life, right? This is how people communicate with each other. And so I just think, and it's interesting to me that, when you're trying to convey a message, because all sales is, or all advertising is a transfer of enthusiasm of whatever it is you're talking about, right? So it's like, and I think this relates to whether you're selling something or talking to someone or having a relationship or a conversation, like in any part of your life, right? So it's almost like, okay, these are the 5 things that really, this is how people communicate. And so, this is how people have relationships. And so as the landscape has changed from an advertising perspective too, and I know I'm wrapping in like 2 different thoughts in one, but, like bringing that into the way that it is now, which is so digitally focused. And now you have Facebook ads and Instagram ads, and it's not the same. The communication platform has changed so much for you to be able to convey that same message and talk to people the same way. And consumers at the same time are receiving messages in a different way, but it's not the same as it was back in the day when you actually had people were watching these commercials and you had these like mini 30-second commercials to watch to really get engaged in something and really make a decision if you're going to buy something or not. And I think it still comes down to like that human interaction, because it was the most representative of how you actually communicate with people and how you talk to people. And I think that I learned that early on being on the sales side, not getting that reporter role. And I think that has been a learning lesson I've actually taken with me throughout my career, because it impacts how I put creative together or how I talk to customers, or how, when we're approaching, like, what's the kind of message, like I'm stripped down now. I don't have the opportunity to give you a 30-second commercial and like give you a mini movie, but now it's like, I have this little Instagram ad I can do. And like, how do I do that? And now it's got to be quick and catchy. And, it's like, I've had to strip down the way that I would normally communicate to try and engage you. And it's just unfortunate because it's changed the concept of how human interaction really works. So I don't know if that
yeah, no. No,
it took you a little while.
no, like this is the thing. I'm loving your passion for it, like the subject matter. It's like, yeah, it's not one of those things where you're just doing the job and you're just doing the paint by numbers. You really have got like, yeah, you've gone full native, as they say, because it would be easy to look at your friends who are going up and down the country, where sometimes at the 4 a.m. or sometimes like at like close to midnight or whenever that breaking news is, to like go, you know what, I should be doing what you're doing. That's not going, why am I not there? But you went, right. No, I've embraced this and gone with it. And like, I like the whole thing with regards to like marketing, advertising, sales, with regards to sort of broadcast, because like in this day and age, in this digital age we live in right now, like you can target someone so effectively with a marketing campaign, but you sort of kind of lose something with that sort of targeting, because, okay, for example, the Budweiser ads, the whole what's up, like in the sort of 90s, drew together like people all over the place. But if you went advertise that on an individual basis, it might be more miss than hit, but it was like this collective, I get that. Where now it'll be like, it's very tailored to you, but you're not getting that sort of collective, like, hey, you remember that advert? And like, hey, being in America, you should know more so with the Super Bowl ads, which come out each and every year.
Yep. And really, that's what it's come down to now. It's like all those, what used to be these, ad campaigns that could create that kind of community with everyone going, what's up, what's up? Yeah, you can't create that on an individualized basis when you're just getting targeted online, right? But the Super Bowl can do that. And unfortunately, you have to pay millions and millions of dollars for one shot at that and hope that people remember it and hope you make it on the Today Show the next morning for the Super Bowl review. But yeah, it's just a very different landscape.
Yeah. So now this is the thing. Now, with that, you went, hey, you know what? Gaming. Now that is now that is like, okay, let's just say when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars to like develop a grade A game, to like, yeah, maybe a few thousand, but the market of attention in that realm is bonkers. Like, what, like you mentioned you got into gaming, the gaming side of things, and sort of the transfer over to mobile gaming as well. Like, what was the sort of two differences between like the regular gaming and the sort of mobile gaming?
Oh yeah, gaming is such an interesting beast. So we were I went to Big Fish. Big Fish was a mobile or a casual gaming company. We made amazing games, and we made games that initially were on PC Mac that were um, long form games that you would play, like hidden object games, and you could buy CDs of them, or you could play them on Facebook, games like that. And then as we started to grow, we really started to create these studios within the gaming studio. And so those individual studios were responsible for different genres of games. So then we ended up having a free to play team. We had a match 3 team. I'm trying to go back in my gaming days and remember all these things. We had a casino team. And, so because gaming started to grow so quickly once Apple really released the App Store and put a lot of attention into that. And so that's when like the port to mobile happened. And that's when we split up into these different studios. And it takes a long time to make a really good game. We had a couple of games that we created in-house, and that could take over a year to make a really good game. And then there were some where we contracted with developers all over the world. Like we worked with a great developer to make Gummy Drop, and Gummy Drop was a match 3 game, which was a very successful game. And so one of many that we had. And so we had 2 different business approaches that we took to that. And one of the most successful division of our company was actually casino gaming. And so we had a virtual casino game, and essentially you download the app and and it was interesting, the psychology behind why people played why they play virtual casino games, because you're essentially buying a spot at the table. So you can play craps, blackjack, roulette, whatever it is you want to play, but you're not winning any real money. So you're paying to be there, and you're winning in virtual currency. So it's like, what's the motivation for somebody to do this? Is it that they just want to win? But really the psychology behind that was that they developed relationships. So what would happen is it was almost like it was a social movement inside this casino app. And so people would start connecting with each other. You'd sit down at a blackjack table virtually, and you would have your avatar up there, who you were, and then you could chat with other people. And so that was really what grew that genre. I mean, the virtual casino in the app stores right now is that's probably the highest generating revenue for in the gaming category, hands down. If you ask anybody at Apple, or you can probably Google it, right? But we'd see millions of dollars coming in on a very regular basis for people who just wanted to sit there, and they made friends. We had people that got married because they met inside the app. We would get invited to weddings. Like we had 3 weddings in 1 year of people who got married inside the app. They met each other, and then there was like friends groups. They'd go to Vegas together once a year. They practiced together in the app. It was, it's a very, very connecting for people. But at the same time, I think the downside of that was it's also quite addicting, and you had a lot of people that, spent money they didn't have in there. And I think that's a really tricky place to be as a developer, as like a game studio, to be like, what's your role in that? We had people calling us saying, please shut my account down because I'm just too addicted to this. And I really struggled with that, because I just felt like at the end of the day, like how are you making the world a better place? How are you making yourself a better person? Like if you're spending all this time engaging this, it's great that you're making these connections, but you're living inside your house in this hole. Like, we're not meant to, I think we're meant to go do things and engage with people and be in front of people, and not, on your computer all the time, because you'd see the gameplay, the hours, the time spent per user was like going up and up, and it was extensive. It was too much. So, that was definitely like, there's the dark side of that side. But from a revenue perspective and running a business, we created commercial campaigns. I did that. Actually, I went down, to LA, and we went and, casted for these big commercials we did. And we created a big commercial campaign around people meeting each other inside the app, and what life inside, Big Fish Casino was. And, and so, we created lots of different, variations of that. And that was a fun time to be able to do those things. But I think after that, when I realized like how many people were really getting sucked in on the negative side, I was like, oh, I think it's time to look at something else, to do something that you feel proud of, that you feel like when you're working somewhere that people are really, that you're doing something good in the world. And so.
Yeah, no, because I was going to ask, because there was a moment where you were talking about it. You seem to like choke up slightly, that it was like a hard moment. Like, was it kind of like an ethical awakening for you, what you do in your sort of
Yeah,
work?
I mean, I have two boys, right? I have a 10 and a 13-year-old. And so they're very aware of what I do. And so, and I talk about work all the time with them. I remember growing up hearing my dad talk about work, and he was such a hard worker. And, and he was very successful. And so I think I had a little bit of a benchmark of that. And I want my kids to have that too. They've got, a pretty good, easy life, but like it doesn't come without, somebody providing for them. Right. So, I definitely, want to have those conversations with them about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And
Mm,
I think I had a little bit I struggled with that when we were making the commercials. I remember, because they were like, well, what commercial are you making? And I was like, how do I really explain? I don't want them playing. I don't
yeah.
want them playing casino. So why am I doing this? Right. So I think I had a little bit of aha moment there, and just was like, okay, I want to be proud of what I'm doing and be able to explain it to them and not feel like I'm doing this, but I don't want you to do that, or,
Yeah.
I'm engaged in this, but I don't want you to, like, you guys play games all that they're, they love video games, but I'm like, oh, I don't ever want you to be on that game, like, so I just, yeah, I think about that now, like all the time. Like if I'm doing something, I want to feel like I can explain it to them and that they're proud of that too. So.
Mm. So would you say, in with regards to sort of going forward from that job, you were like you looked to places where it was like, okay, who am I going to be? How is it going to help represent myself to your sons on like on a day-to-day basis, or for yourself looking in
Yeah.
the mirror?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think moving forward from that, it's also like, okay, what is the right place for that? And then how do I make sure that I'm continuing to grow
Mm,
and, continuing to learn? And I've had such different experiences with different companies. And so I have grown in so many different ways, but I was very picky from then on out. Like I wasn't going to be in that, be in that role again. So, and I haven't been. I mean, I worked with a couple different startups that were really fun, and also had like an edge to them where they were really trying to do really good things. Crowd Cow is a company that great company, and what they do is it's a platform that connects local farmers to consumers so that you have full transparency into the meat that you're eating. So if
ah,
instead of it's amazing, you go to the grocery store and you just don't think about buying, picking up a package of meat. But if you don't have the farm on there, if you don't know who the farmer was that actually, provided that meat, then you have no idea what's in there. I mean, you could have like 20 different cows from 5 different countries that ate who knows what, that went to a slaughterhouse, because the USDA doesn't need to tell you where if it was brought to the US, that's all that they really care about. They don't really need to tell you where it came from or what these cows ate. So you really have no idea what you're eating, right? So solving that problem was like, okay, well, we're going to be a platform that connects those farmers and ranchers to the user. So, we would have these farm capsules where you would get to meet these farmers. You would know exactly what these animals were eating, how they were treated,
mm,
the kill method. People don't like to think about that, but if you're eating meat, you should know, right? So like, there's a lot that goes into that. And I remember learning about that and being fascinated, but like how peaceful of it, they make it so that the animal is not scared. Because if you kill an animal and they get super scared, well, what happens if they know that's happening? All the toxins like are coming through their body and it's seeping through that meat, and that's what you're eating, right? So, you shouldn't, I think it's important to have that transparency. And so that was that was really interesting. I think that concept of what they're doing, I really liked the concept of that. And yeah, I think I, learned a lot from that. That was very different, right? Like totally different coming from gaming. I was like, wrap my mind around that. But
oh, like, it's a case of, yeah, look, from television, gaming, and now
uh-huh.
like from, okay, farm to pretty much farm to household,
Yeah,
like technology company. Is
yeah,
that you've like, it's one of those things how can I put it? You're not afraid to put yourself in a place of discomfort to
yeah.
learn those new skills. Has that always been a trait with you, or is that something which has come along over the last few years?
I think it's come along over the last few years. I mean, I was at that TV station for so long, like 15 years, right?
Yeah.
And it was hard to like make that move. And now I feel I'm definitely approach my life as like, I always think like at the end of the day, I want to like, I'm going to like be running so hard. I'm going to almost miss the grave. Like, that's how, like, I just want to live a good life. I want to have fun. I want to experience things. I want to be on an adventure. I want to learn things. So, I mean, I think you have to take risks, right? Because else,
Right.
how else are you going to learn and grow? Um, so I think that as I've gotten older, some people I think might take a different approach and be like, no, I need to be more conservative. And I'm kind of like, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like as I get older, I realize how precious time is and how, I don't want to be, there's this great Andy Grammer song actually that I love called 85. And the main line is, I don't want to be 85 with my big house. I forget what the line is, but basically like you missed it, right? You can't take it with you. Your whip ain't going to miss you. Right.
Mm.
So it's like, so wipe down that window, see the bigger picture. It's a great song. Right. And it's like, it's so true. And I think that's a big, I sometimes I hear that and I'm like, that's how I feel like that, so I think it's great to take risks. I think you can't take your life too seriously. I think you can't, you just got to get up and do the right thing and hope that you're you're leaving this place a better place than you found it. And that's what you teach your kids. And that's my approach.
I do like that because it feels like your appetite for life is growing on a sort of day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis. And like with that type of appetite, and like what would you say, are you actively seeking it like adventure, or is it a case of if someone went, hey, I'm going to Bora Bora, like it's like, and you look at your boys and like, okay, yeah, they're in school. Or like, it's like, off to you, here you go.
Yeah, that's it. That is a problem because I have a huge travel bug and I love to travel. So, and they are in school. It's kind of a bummer. And they don't like hot places. And I love to go to hot places. So it's kind of annoying that way. But no, I think, on a very regular basis, I'm on a plane on the weekends, like going to see my friends or going wherever. But my appetite for adventure, I think that's come later too. Like, I think I've gone through a pretty big journey in terms of like how I think in the beginning of my life and the beginning of my work life, I saw life very, I took it a little more seriously and I was much more conservative and worried. And I wasn't as much of a risk taker. And I think in the last couple of years, for 2 years, for whatever reason, I've just gone through a time of seeking in my life. And I found like, I'm a big meditator. I'm really intimate. In fact, I'm going to a retreat this weekend. I'm really excited about. Um, yeah, I've been studying Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I think he's fascinating. If you get a chance, you should Google him. He's amazing. And so, and that I feel like has really, on one hand, grounded me, but has also made me feel safe in the sense that like, I'm always going to be okay. The universe has my back. Like, I don't need to worry about anything. So as long as I think you just take this approach of like love and being good, love and light and being good, like you're going to be fine. So there's nothing in this world that can really hurt you. If I think, you just take care of yourself and you stay grounded. And that's really, I think that's where I get that from. But that's also increased my like idea of like, I mean, I want more, I want a big life. I want more than just like whatever, I'm just going to always want to do more and I'm always going to want to be more. But in a way that's really good for people, like in a way that's like not self-serving, but like, how do you like touch other people and make, make this world better? Like, how do you do those things? And I am like on the side also like really trying to figure that out. But yeah, so I think meditation is just really good for anybody. I think it's, if you don't do it, you should just take 10 minutes out of your day, figure out how to get focused, calm your analytical mind, and, get centered. And I just think it's so important. There's 90,000 thoughts in your head every minute. Is that what it is? I forget what the number is, but your analytical mind will make you crazy. Right. And so one thing I'm working on with my kids right now is like, what happens when you have a negative thought? Because when you have a negative thought, it actually releases a toxin in your brain, right? And that impacts your body and impacts your health. And so, if your negative thoughts can make you sick, can your positive thoughts make you well, right? So like what I'm trying to do is really get them focused on what they think about. I didn't know this when I was younger, but like I'm like, okay, your head, you have to think of your head as like a bank. And like you put money in that bank, then that money grows. It grows. Whatever you're putting in that bank is growing. But if you have negative thoughts, think about it that you're taking money out of the bank. And now you're going to, you might be poor. So every negative thought you have, you're taking something out of that bank, you're taking something. And then I'm like, at the end of the day, I ask them, like, how'd you do today? How much money do we have in the bank? And that money is just a positive thought. How many positive thoughts did you put in your head? Like, how do you stop that like inner chatter from, bringing you down and taking you down and turning that into something that's bringing you up and, keeping you, even when you have a bad day. And then I'm like, they're like, well, sometimes, we're in prison. They call school prison. It's so annoying. I'm like, you're in prison, but you get to go to school. And you know what? The sun rose today and the grass is green and life is actually good. There is no bad day. It's your perspective and how you're looking at it. So that's a hard lesson for them to wrap their minds around, but I just keep working at it because I think it's important. And I think these are the things that as you get older, it's like, hopefully I'm the nagging voice in the back of their head that makes them think about it and, changes the way they think. I think it's really important to change the way you think.
Absolutely. And like, this is the thing, you bring up an important like point when you like, yes, you got to all like, with all the negative thoughts which go through people's heads on a day-to-day basis, it is very easy to succumb to those negative thoughts and to like get the world framed in the standpoint of, yes, this is the way the world is. It goes in a negative fashion. And whoa, like, no matter what you do, you're not going to make one bit of difference. The whole thing is, it's about finding those moments where you can have some gratitude from that day to start turning things around. Because look, we live in a world which can be harsh, it can be scary, it can be cold, but there's warmth, delight, wonder out there on a day-to-day basis. And when we tap into those things where we can find those moments of gratitude, can like even when it's the most painful moments in our lives, losing someone, being trapped somewhere in a situation where you don't want to be, finding these moments of gratitude, finding those sort of things to like go, yeah, that's right. It's like a domino effect, bit by bit by bit. And like, sometimes you've got to watch the people you have around you with regards to that. If you can have people around you as well, which have that positive mindset, that gratitude seeking mindset, that's always going to be a great fit. Like, there'll be a great ally in you, for you out there in this world. And like, yeah, by all means, keep telling your sons that, and they might like, oh, hey, look, I'm going to prison. Yeah, no, you're going to school to get educated. And right. Yes, that might lead, you might decide to go off to college after school. You might decide to like do photography or go around the world on a big sailboat, but nevertheless, it's making you smarter.
Right.
Hungry for that knowledge. And yeah, look to the day with a little bit of optimism, a little bit of hope, a gratitude for the simple fact that, yeah, you are alive today. You are meeting friends. You are experiencing a wonderful thing called life, which can so easily be snuffed out,
Yep. And people don't, I think that you go on with your day and your life and you stay in this unconscious state, right? And so another thing I think is so important is how do you then take yourself out of that and be conscious throughout the day and be aware? And I think that's where, once you start doing that, once you start catching yourself, like, am I aware? Do I know what am I doing? Or am I just stuck in this, like, this is what I do every day. I get up, I grab my coffee, I go to my desk, and you're not thinking about anything. You miss it. You miss everything. So, trying to like stay on top of that. And I'm like a crazy person about that. Like, and very much like, even when I'm at the gym and I'm running or something, I think about it, like, how aware am I? Like, how am I going to do today? How am I going to focus my attention to like, make sure that I'm coming out of that? And then by doing that, then I just go through my like, oh, I'm so grateful for this. And this is, I'm thankful for this. And I think that gratitude is foundational and it's so important. So there's just a lot of life lessons I feel like I've learned in the last 2 years that I think have made me really excited to just go do things. I don't know, do whatever. And it's so interesting because, this working from home, now that where, COVID has really changed the landscape. And plus my company right now, we're all over the place, right? So I live in Zoom, and sometimes I'm like, I struggle with it because, and I think a lot of people must struggle with this. You go from like having this life of like, you get up, you go to an office, you see people, you're around people, to like you're in your home, and that can be very a lonely experience for a lot of people. And I struggled with it in the beginning, and there are still some days where I'm like, "Ugh, I would love to, like, I don't know, see someone other than my dog. um she sleeps all day. But I think that's what put me on this journey of like, there's got to be more than life. What is life about, and like, what am I doing in this day to day? It's got to be more than this, right? And I always grew up with like a Christian faith and so forth, but nothing to what, never have I touched on what I've touched on in the last 2 years, with like understanding that, there's just so much more, and what meditation and gratitude and all of that has really, done, and how it changing your mindset and your perspective, how that really can change your life. So I'm so like in such a good space with that. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things which in this sort of pre and post pandemic world we are kind of living in, if people are working from home and everything like this, it's the micro interactions throughout the day. Like, put it this way, like, you might have, like, there may have been a coffee shop you frequented on a daily basis, and that sort of interaction with say Marcy, whoever, like, whatever that person's name is, and like that sort of 30-second conversation, and like, yeah, back and forth would be sort of like little tick in the plus column. With the realm of sort of isolation many people have like felt, you're kind of lucky in some regards because your kids were older. They must have been 11 and 8 at the start of it all. So with that, because they're on that sort of slightly older like demographic, it's like, okay, they will do things quite independently. Trust me, I've seen I was recently visiting my friend, and I can't wait. One of her boys is 10 and the other one is, I think, 7, possibly 8. And yes, they're playing Fortnite. They're just like going, hey, how you doing? Yeah, off they go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a very different proposition if they were, like, say, 4 years younger, you know what I mean? Where that would be like, which is a challenge in itself. I have to ask this, when the pandemic started, like, you say you're a single mother before we started, is that correct? Were you a single mother then, or was it okay?
Yes, so my partner lives, we are separated, and she lives about 2 miles away, 2 miles away. And so we are both very involved with the kids. So, but she's an audiologist, so she's outside of the home all the time. So on a daily basis, I just had the kids here. And so that was a struggle, because they were in school, sort of, they were online school, but not really, because they didn't really want to do it. And I was working, and I mean, that year and a half is a blur. I don't know how I got through that. I don't know how a lot of people got through that. That was working from home, and like, I was the only person here, but there's a lot of families that had the two, both parents are working from home and the kids are in school, and then the internet would go down and you're on top of each other. And, it was like, I don't know what was worse, having 2 people or 1, because I'm like, in between meetings, trying to make lunch, trying to make sure that they're staying on task. And, it was really hard. It was really hard. And so them going back to school, I mean, that year and a half was, like I said, I think I blocked it out. I don't have a lot of memories of that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I get that, because like, this is the thing. I think people sometimes forget the value of, like, not like a superficial conversation at times. It's like, you go, okay, right. The reason why Tiger King kicked off in such a way is because it was that sort of gateway drug to have that superficial conversation over the internet and everything like this. And you look, I'm a strong believer, if you've got to have official conversations as well, more so just to help clear out that sort of mental baggage you have on a day-to-day basis. But more times than not, we always like, if you sat down and went, how many like superficial conversations have you had on a day-to-day basis? Before the pandemic, you could go hundreds,
It's a good point.
thousands,
Yeah.
to nothing on some days, maybe
Yeah.
one or two. And it's one of those things where you might get distracted by the sort of mindless chatter, but it made you feel connected sometimes with people over
Yeah.
like a TV show, a film, a piece of music. But when that goes, and don't get me wrong, charming that your children are, I'm sure, you can only talk about so many things if you
Yeah.
can actually get them to talk to you at all, if you're not distracting them for some type of electronic device or something like that. I could be wrong.
No, I mean, the mental health issues that have come out of COVID, I can imagine are more substantial than we'll actually ever know, because I think people are still dealing with it in their own ways, right? Like how, then you've got the anxiety of reemerging back into more of a social world, but so many things have shifted, right? In the day-to-day businesses of people, like if you're working from home or not. But that is very true. I think those unintentional conversations, now maybe do people now feel more focused, that they're having more intentional conversations because they're more appreciative of the fact that they get to have their life back again? I don't know. I think it would be great if the perspective reemerging back into life again would be that there's more of an appreciation of the fact that now I get to go back into my, my workout classes that I get to do without a mask with people. Like that's, so many things that we took for granted, that we can just go into a grocery store now. We couldn't do that for 2 years, right? Like, so, or you could, but with lots of limitations. But, I think that it's like, hopefully what the pandemic can do is shift the perspective and allow people to a little bit more grace and gratitude. And I mean, because there's only good can come from that, right? Versus having it being approached in any other way. And hopefully we don't ever have to experience something like that again in this lifetime. But
Yeah, no, like this is the thing. I'm not too sure if it's global, but like we had a mental health week last week, and one of the key key subject matter was loneliness, and like yeah, people dealing with that type of loneliness, and and I think some people may still be feeling that from the last 2 years up until this point, because yeah, I don't know about yourself, like, and I think ladies are better at that sort of keeping that communication going over guys, where it's like, yes, you go, like if you went to a male friend and went, hey, when was the last time you talked to anyone? If it hadn't to do with work or anything like this,
right.
couple of days, and like, yeah, I don't think I've met many ladies which can sort of function that way.
No, right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, that I think that is a tough thing. And, if you go from being like I was in an office, and then, now I'm, always in the home. You do have to work at, you have to think about it. You have to make sure you're not just wearing sweatpants every day, and like you're letting days and days and days go by where you don't leave the house or whatever. It has to be intentional. And then that does feel like a lot of work sometimes. But I think what I've just done is I've really focused on, I've actually reached out to a lot of people, that some friends that I just had lost touch with or hadn't talked to, but I always had a good connection with, and picked up like maybe 4 or 5 of those relationships again, where now we're in constant contact, which I think is so fun, because why did we lose contact in the first place? Maybe somebody moved and we just, life got busy, and, so it just kind of takes the time to be like, okay, wait, but that was a person that meant a lot to me. And like, there's no, and in fact, next weekend, I'm going to go see a friend of mine that is from one of those, where I just called her up one day and I'm like, I haven't talked to you in forever. And, now we're back in contact, which is so fun. So, it does take some work, right? You have to think about it. You have to be intentional about it, but I think it's important. I mean, we are made to be social people, to have connection with other people. There's research that shows you live longer if you have more people around you, right? Like, I think that's super important, but also really difficult for people who, I can sit there and say that from my perspective, because I don't have, the issues that so many people now have, that that really are challenged by that, with the anxiety of it. And I was watching on I think it was on Facebook the other day, of this one girl. She was just this young, beautiful girl. And she was like, she was crying, and she's like, I took a shower today and no one has any idea how hard that was for me. And
Mm.
I was just, it broke my heart, because I think that, good for her for actually like bringing light to it. And, people were commenting on that, but like, she probably represents hundreds and hundreds of people who will never say anything about that, right? Who will just hide behind wherever they can, and, and won't ask for the help, but will feel so depressed and sad. And I think that mental health crisis is so massive right now. I think we don't even understand how big it is.
Yeah, like the whole thing is with regards to everything what the pandemic brought, and with regards to where that sort of mental health like challenge is going. I don't think we're going to know for a good, like maybe 5, 10 years, maybe even longer, the sort of the
Great.
ramification which will come out of this. And like, I'm like, one of the things which concerns me with regards to, if you look at the world right now with global inflation going out of the roof and people talking about recession, like there's going to be like, I think there will be kind of, if we do go into recession globally, there'll be like a snapback to like, okay, you're back in the office. Okay, doing this. Okay, mental health. No, that's an expense we don't need to talk about right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not too sure it will take us in the most healthy place. I'm not trying to be depressing or anything like that. It's just like one of those things I've seen. If 2008, if you want to go back there, like, yeah, end of the 20th century, like with the dot-com burst, like bubble bursting, and yeah, like the recession in the 80s, where like anything which was like a program which wasn't considered necessary
Yeah.
went. And I think with regards to sort of mental health, mental well-being, and basically just the health of any organization with that side of things, it can't be swept under the rug, or it's gonna like really come back and bite us one day.
Yeah. Look, they're saying we're headed for a recession right now. And so, and that being the case, then I think the best thing that we could do is be as proactive as we can, right? From all levels, but that whose focus is on that, right? And where does that come from? And how do we do that? But I mean, I think that we are going to see a lot of change with, you're right. There's the less tolerance for this, hybrid working, because people like it better. Like people are, they're just going to do, nope, this is how we got to streamline our expenses. And we're going to be back to this like transactional life mode. And so definitely something that we should be prepared for, but it's like, how does that happen? And how does that information get translated? And, what does that look like? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be the mystery for everyone, yeah, but like this is the thing. I think it comes down to also like sort of personal responsibility, because look, when you went, okay, yes, I called a friend I haven't like spoken to anything like this. There is a moniker of personal responsibility what needs to be acknowledged to take that up, because look, don't get me wrong, we all succumb to those little bits of resistance which I can't do it. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like one of the things I often said, if there's a friend what lives near to me or a friend what lives like far, it's easier to arrange something to go far, because it's like, okay, but if it's near, it's like, yeah. Or if they fall in that near far region, it's like,
right. It's like, I can go see him next weekend.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you just never do it.
Absolutely. It's like a friend's wedding. Same friend I visited with her like lads last week. She got like we were in London, and she got married in Scotland. Everyone managed to make it, no problem at all. Simple.
Yeah.
Lived an hour and a half away from me in London. Yeah, it was like
never saw it. Yeah.
Hardest thing in the world. And it's like one of those things I kind of like go, what? That's kind of trippy,
Yeah, that is kind of trippy. But that's probably very true, right? Because you're just like, well, I'm just going to make this as a destination. I'm going to make time for this, as opposed to it impacting like a car ride or, just taking a whole day. Yeah, I know. I totally get it. I think that's a mindset thing too, right? Like you're just like, no, I'm just going to look at this as this like big thing I'm going to go to and take time for. But yeah, if it's next weekend, no, it might not work.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. So I am kind of interested, like, because, like, yes, we are in this ever-changing world, and you being on the sort of the forefront of marketing and everything like this. What do you think, like, what do you think one of the sort of main changes do you think's come out of this, what you've seen recently?
I mean, hopefully not everybody using a cartoon avatar for their face pages anymore, but like
It's like,
I get a little worried. I think I've seen, unfortunately, twofold. I think that there, that you're just looking at the NFT world, which I think is great, nothing wrong. But I think what it's representing too is this idea of people hiding behind things. That's what I see. Like you go on Twitter now and it's like, I don't see anybody's face anymore. I just see what these different representations of things, how they want to represent themselves. And in a way, I think that's also a good thing because, you should be able to represent yourself however you want to represent yourself. But I guess my thing is I just don't want to dehumanize a culture and feel like that human touch point isn't there anymore. And so you can, online, you can be whoever you want to be. You can look like whatever you want. You can you can edit your pictures. You can be whatever sex you want. You can be whatever you identify with. You can be whoever, and you should be able to be whoever you want. I completely support that. But I just hope it doesn't get to the point where it removes the human interaction that we would have and like that touch point and feeling like, okay, now that we live in this, we're used to this digital world. We're used to having conversations on Zoom, that's our life now. And so, but now if I'm going to start changing everything, and then I think sometimes then you lose in trying to be whatever you want to be, you lose who you really are, right? Like, so you're hiding behind everything. And then, the feedback loop of being really transparent with somebody and like, understanding how they see you and all that. And just, I don't know, I feel like we lose a little bit of that. And I hope that's not the case, but that's what I get concerned about, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think there has been a lot of people which have decided to run from who they are and basically hide themselves away. I think in this world, if it's going to like not fall into that sort of cold clinical side of things, I think people do need to sort of reconnect with themselves, reconnect with who they truly are. And that sometimes means asking hard questions of oneself. It does, like, it's not going to be one of those things where I think there's going to have to be a lot of people which are going to have to get uncomfortable with where they are in their lives very quickly, or it will be that sort of distant sort of this little emoji is representing who I am, and no one can really get close or figure out who I am because they don't know who they are.
Yeah. And like, so then it's like, do you have two different lives? Are you leading one life online and you're representing yourself one way on Twitter or whatever, and then your real life is something different, like that's not represented on there? Or is that who you're really trying to be, but you don't feel like you can be like that in your actual 3D world here? Like, I don't know, but I see it, and I'm just like, at the end of the day, it's like we're all just humans, and we're all connected in one way. And I think that, I think that's an important thing never to lose sight of, because this feels like it. I don't know. I feel like and I keep pointing here because that's where my monitor is, but that just feels like a fragmentation of the human race in a lot of different ways that can be kind of scary down the road. So I just hope that, I hope that the idea that there's more grace for people who can now identify with however they want to identify with doesn't fragment us, but it just brings us closer together. Like that's, I think, what the original intention was, and not to hide from something or run from it or try and be something different that you can, continue to feel like you're in a safe environment. Not everybody does, right? Like this world is a crazy place, but finding those pockets where you can just maintain your, your human interaction. I think that's really important.
I think, yes, with regards to human interaction and basically dealing with, how can I say, this colorful world of ours with all of its topsies and turvies, which go on a daily basis. I think if people like in many respects stop lying to themselves about who they are, because I'm a strong believer that most people, really people who are really in touch with themselves, they get to know around about 40% of who they are as a character, as a person dealing with the day to day. If you meet someone who goes, I know who I am 100%, I've said this before, yeah, you got to go, okay, yeah, what darkness have you seen? In like across that, because you can't know your whole self unless if you've gone through a whole gambit of experiences which have challenged you on a day-to-day basis, some good things and some bad things. And like people like go, well, you can't have one without the other. If you only had good, you never know when a crisis comes up how you're going to be. And if you've only had bad, you never know how you're going to be when you do have that opportunity to sit down and breathe. And without those things, you can never go, yeah, I have a handle of who I am. Yeah, I have a handle of what needs to be done on that day-to-day basis, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And it's kind of like getting to know yourself in different situations. And, can you preemptively say, if I'm in this situation and this happened, like, how would I handle it? I think that's a hard question for people to really answer. But probably a really good question to ask, because, that is how you get to know yourself, and like how you can, what expectations do you have for yourself? Like how do you observe your behavior? I mean, I think it'd be interesting to take a day and be like, okay, what do I think of me? I just watched myself all day. I sat as an observer in my mind and watched myself throughout my day. And like, how did I do? How did you like, you just dealt with that situation. Like, should I have dealt with it in that way? Or could I have figured out a different way? I think it's just interesting to just find different ways that you do get to know yourself that way, so that you understand how to handle a variety of different situations. But it is also true too, like those people that have not had to deal with any kind of loss or death, or like anything that's would be considered a hardship, like, do they know themselves as well, and how to, if they were impacted, like, would they even know how to respond? I don't know. I mean, I've had both sides. Like, I've had great things, I've had hard things, I've had loss, I've had all of those things, right? I think most people do in their lifetimes, and I would handle them completely different today, as the person I am today, than I would have, when I was a 19-year-old girl, or what I went through my 20, whatever, right? Like, I think we all evolve. And I think it's also having the awareness and saying, I want to evolve and I want to know how I would handle this. And I think the first thing is just being aware and stepping out of your subconscious and not letting that automate your life. That's like, I think where it all starts. And that's where it started for me, is like when I really understood that. And when I understood that, like, I'm letting like the autonomical, however they say it, that part of my mind run, and I have no idea. I have no control over, I'm just reacting all the time. I'm just reacting to what comes to me. I'm a victim to my life. This happened to me, that happened to me. And, I mean, when I first understood, like, that's what I was doing, and didn't have the awareness to like come out of that and say, like, no, I get to choose. I get to choose how I respond, and I don't have to respond right now. I'm aware of, like, I'm in the situation, like, that so much, I think, control, and so much, I think so much comes out of that, just, in terms of saying, like, you're not a victim. You get to actually make these decisions and decide, and nothing has to happen to you. And like, I don't know, there's just so much good that comes out of that. So just being aware and asking yourself that question on an hourly basis, and making and changing your perspective. I think that's really important.
So I have to ask, like, with regards to changing your perspective, has there been a moment recently which has helped, like, basically you going, oh, wow, I didn't see that before?
I think it comes like in micro bits. So, I mean, in my journey with all of this, I would say in the last, when I started really doing some like soul searching, probably when COVID started, is when I was like, okay, there's got to be something more. And I've gone on through all these different people I've, like, listened to, between like understanding law of attraction, law of assumption, understanding Neville Goddard, understanding like all these, all these people that I've been, kind of trying to be educated from. And like I said, I think my introduction to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and like reading his book, he has a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic book. Like, you want to change your life, you want to change your personality, you can get it on Audible, you can download it. He's got such a great intonation and inflection, and I love listening to him. And his books are not narrated by him, which is my one pet peeve. But I know that's probably just a time commitment thing. I don't know. But but it's a really good read, and I think it's really eye-opening. And so when I read that and I understood, that's when I think I understood that so much of my life took place in my subconscious, and I was not aware of anything going on, but that I could also change things I didn't like. And like, how do you do that? And, what is being aware really, how does that work? But that is something you can read it and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. But then you just go back to your life, right? So I think it's just been trying to consume my mind with like when I'm in the car, I don't listen to music anymore. I listen to my audiobooks. Like I'm very much like, if I have time, like when I get up in the morning and I'm making the kids breakfast, I usually will have, I don't even watch the news anymore. I probably should watch the news more than, but I'm listening to my books on tape, or I'm listening to a podcast, or like it's a consistent education around it, because I'm just trying to flood my brain with like the way that I want to think and the way that I want to change the way I think. So that has been changing my perspective, but it hasn't been like that's not an overnight thing. I think that's, you're hardwired. Your subconscious has got like a little hang on you, and it is hardwired. That's who you are. Right. And there's so many different ways that people say you can change that and so forth. But I mean, I think, changing your habits a little bit during the day and just being aware of what you're doing is the first step. And then just educating yourself on like what that looks like for you. I think it's different for everyone. There may be some people who are like, I want to change my perspective about this in my life, and then they can do it. Like, I just wasn't one of those people. It's just taken me a long time, but I do see a change in me, and my friends see a change. And so that's probably the biggest feedback loop, right? Is like having those conversations where they're like, yeah, you would have handled this situation so differently last year. Like, it's amazing how different, but that's just been my self journey of like, okay, I'm in this place now. I know this isn't the best place for me. I know emotionally I'm struggling. Like, I'm not feeling great about myself. Like, how do I change it? And I don't want to do medication. I don't want to like, I'm feeling like, because COVID was really hard on me in the beginning. I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like like life kind of came crashing down. So, but I was like, I'm not going to be a victim to this. I'm going to figure this out. So, and that's what I did. I just went, it was just like a journey, and every day I feel like I see something where I'm like, oh, okay, I have a new perspective on that. And sometimes I think it's the universe going, you're doing it. Like, here's a little sign, here's a little gift, like, keep going. I had this weird thing the other day where I was talking to somebody, and it was a rainy, cold day. And they were like, what do you really want to see today? It was a really interesting question. And I was like, I would love to see a butterfly. I'm not going to see a butterfly because it's pouring rain out and there are no butterflies here. But it would be awesome if like I could just see a butterfly. So then I go on with my day. I forgot I even said that. And I was at a hair appointment, and I was on my phone, and my son, my 10-year-old, texted me, and he said, Mom, I got you something. And I'm like, you did? What did you get me? And it was this picture. It was at school. He brought it home, and it was this beautiful pink butterfly, but it was a magnet. And I was like, and this was like 2 hours later. And I was like, oh my God, like, I just loved that story. And I put it on my fridge. But I was like, and I look at that butterfly as a reminder that like, there's someone's got my back, and there's like, it's going to be okay. And I don't know, I just thought that was so unique. And I think what's representative of that is that it wasn't a butterfly outside, like how I thought it was going to be. It came in a different form, but the feeling I got when I saw it was the same feeling. It was like, oh my God, I loved it. So it's like, sometimes the things that we want in life don't come in the way that we want them to, but it's like, but does it evoke the same feeling, and does it make you still feel good? And I think those are the things that I see, and I'm like, and I have the same amount of gratitude for that.
You see, like, this is what I like about you. You've got this, you've tapped into this vein of hope and like, yeah, joy and optimism, because like, this is the thing, many a person who would have had the same thought of you, like, I would like to see a butterfly, an eagle, or like a panther, or whatnot, they would be like, okay. And if it came in the form of a fridge magnet, a statue, or whatnot, they'll be like, yeah, but I didn't see it. But the universe is like I can't give you exactly what you want right now.
Right.
But
Right.
it's one of these things where I've given you a small anchor of positivity, where now it's up to you whether you pick it up and run with it or discard it. And I think a lot of people out there would go ahead and just discard it because it's like, because everything has to be so tailor-made to what they individually want, it's not a case of they're not actually thinking what they individually need in that moment in time, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not only that, I would take it one step further and say, why do they want the thing that they want? You want something usually because it makes you feel a certain way. So it's almost like, but your attention is so focused on the actual thing, you miss the opportunity for the feeling, because you're just now like, oh wait, but that's not, it didn't come the way I wanted it. But if you open your mind a little bit and understand really what it could represent, then you could still obtain the way that feels. And so I think that people miss that a lot, is like the focus is always on these things, or like, why do you want a bigger house? Because it makes you feel like you have more space, or it makes you, I mean, you do have more space, but it makes you feel better about yourself. It makes you feel good, like makes you feel cool, makes you feel like you're in a better social circle. And it's like, there's other ways to obtain that feeling. And I do think that you obtain that feeling and those things will come, right? Your inside creates your outside. I really do believe that. So like, and there's a lot of different science around, a lot of different, schools of thought around that. But yeah, I mean, it's like at the end of the day, like if you feel good and you can figure out how to maintain that feeling, then that is just going to emanate from you. Like that energy is going to come out, and you will impact positively the people around you. And at the end of the day, you can't take it with you, right? So I think it's important that the legacy you leave is the one that came from inside you.
Yeah, because like this is the thing, it ties back to when, like, right at the beginning of our conversation, where you were like, okay, news anchor. Oh, no, that didn't quite work out. Okay, salesperson. And it's like, okay. And you picked it up and you ran with it, because look, you could have like kept it on that, okay, success is this.
Right.
And just went, okay, I'm not successful.
Only this, right?
Yeah, it's true. I'm not as successful until this happens. And years go by, decades go by, and you're like, it's not being, I haven't got to this, where you can have an opportunity to flourish, grow, be like truly the person who you're most probably meant to be in this different area, only if you ran with it. But it's a case of many people just need to know what to run with. And sometimes it's not the very thing you think you should be running with.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's a true story.
Hey. You are a delight and a joy to talk to, I have to say. Yeah.
Thank you. You as well.
Oh, you're most kind, most kind. I was fishing for the compliment. Yeah. So with this, like, where, not so much where you see yourself in the next few years, like, where do you think your exciting journey is going to take you in the next few years?
Oh God, I wish I knew that answer, because I know I feel the change is coming. I don't know what that means or what that looks like. And I honestly don't know. But what I do know is that I am going to just be open, and I am going to maintain the course, in the sense that, I love what I do. I'm going to do that every day. I'm going to do that the best I can. I'm going to continue to be a seeker and continue to really focus on leaving a good legacy behind. I have made mistakes in my life, like most people, but I don't think they define me. And so, I think I'm going to be really intentional about crafting what does define me and what does that look like. And I mean, I just hope it's for the greater good, and that's all I can do. But I don't know. I don't know anything else beyond that, but I'm really excited to find out what that is.
Excellent, excellent. Now I'm going to ask one last question before we wrap this up. Now, what defines a perfect day or almost a perfect day for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, hopefully waking up in like some sunny, beautiful, like beautiful weather. I'm a big weather person. I don't know, I know I live in Seattle, but I love degrees and sunny. I would say I love to be with my friends. I love having brunch with them. I get together with them. I've got a good group of like 4 girls that we get together with quite a bit. So spending time with them, doing something fun with my kids. There's walking meditations. If you've ever done a walking meditation, they are mind blowing. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza has them on YouTube if you want to try one for free. So if I could get one of those in, I love them. That always makes me so happy. And, I don't know, like grabbing one of my best friends and having a really good glass of wine for dinner and going out to dinner. I love to go out to eat. So anytime I can go out to like I love restaurants and I love being able to go do that. And I don't know, it sounds like it's a lot of food, sunshine, wine, my kids, and meditation. That's a perfect day for me.
This is like, hey, it's all what can be done in the next like week, 2 weeks, or a month. So I think you should arrange something like that. Grab some friends together. Take your kids along. Like if they don't want the heat, stick them in a room where the air can be. And then basically, do the walk, meditation, and share a company of great friends with a great glass of wine and chat and laugh until the early hours of the morning, I say.
Yes, that's a good day.
Oh, sounds like a great day. Sounds like a fantastic day. Oh, yeah. Can you, I got to say, Kathryn, yes, thank you for coming on today. You have been a superstar, a legend. I've enjoyed your energy and your company today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Can you tell the lovely people how they can find you out there on these interwebs?
Yeah. So I have an open Instagram account. You can find me at Hey, It's Kathryn. I ended up taking my last name off there because I did get a little bit nervous with being so exposed and my kids and so forth, but I've cleaned it up a little bit. So
dare I ask?
No, just from the perspective of like showing my street name or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me at Kathryn Ficarra on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Yeah, seek her out. Yes, by all means, a cup full of Kathryn brings a little bit of joy in everyone's life.
We are launching, I will put this plug in there. So we are launching our first biometric ignited cell phone wallet case for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So you'll want to go to solosecure.com and place your pre-order because we're getting ready to launch that in the next month. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. That's been a big passion project for my team. So we're getting ready to do that.
There you go. If you want a case which you can open with your fingerprint, there you go. That's the one you need. I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for staying with us, sticking with us till the end of this show. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Have a great day, guys. Yes. Peace. And we are.